Thank you for joining me today. This is the Commissioner's Corner, and I'm Linda Streissguth, District 3 Commissioner. With me today is Shar Burnett, and we're here to talk about a very important project to not only District 3, but all of the citizens here in Kitsap County. The project is the Bucklin Hill Bridge project, and it's a project that has been around for many, many years. I remember first hearing about this project when I came to Kitsap County with Puget Sound Energy in the early 90s, and we began planning for relocation of our electric utilities with this project.
So you know a lot about this area and the scope of this project, and those of us that have driven Bucklin Hill Road know how important it will be for ingress and egress out of Silverdale. It'll just make our world so much better, but first we're going to have to put up with a little inconvenience.
That's right, and that is the main thing we're here to talk about today, is to ensure people are aware the project is coming, that portions of the road will be closed, and that they need to plan ahead.
There will be a website you'll see on the screen numerous times throughout this program, bucklinhill.com. Please refer to it if you need information on the project. Especially once the project is underway, you can get information on detour routes, how the project is progressing, and get the information that you need to avoid that area at all possible.
Well, one of the things that I have learned just recently is some of the rich history of the area around the Clear Creek Trail. And I was interested to learn that the first bridge across the estuary was built in 1907. That was a bridge that was created by one of the early settlers here out of old wood timbers, and it existed for many, many years in that location. I think it wasn't until 1947 that the bridge was replaced with the culvert system that exists now. And as a result of those culverts, there has been a degradation to the estuary and fish passage, which is one of the key goals of the project, to restore that natural function.
It's all about the salmon, and because it's about the salmon, it will enable the county to make a wider road, a 4-lane road over the estuary, which is going to benefit all drivers in our community. The county has looked at this project for many, many years and tried to gather funding and so they could go forward with this project.
They have, as I said, I first learned of the project in the mid-90s, and I think that the county finished their first design study in the late 90s and started trying to assemble the funding for it. The funding was finally put together, I think, just a couple of years ago, and we're now ready to move forward with this important project. We
really want citizens, especially drivers, those going into Silverdale, especially the businesses on Bucklin Hill Road that you will see through this program. Please be aware of this closure. You will see detours. You will have lots of information to refer to so you don't get caught in the grind.
Yes, and I've also been telling people that although the road will be closed from July of 2014 to July of 2015, our businesses are still open. So please still come to Silverdale, visit those businesses, but plan ahead to ensure that your travel time, it minimizes the frustration you might feel while you're stuck in some traffic.
I think you've got some great guests today, Commissioner. Mary Earl will be joining you talking about the Clear Creek Task Force, and Tina Nelson, who really is the brains of this whole project on Bucklin Hill. She has some great information to share.
She does. And with that, we'll be right back with those two guests to start our conversation. Joining me now is Mary Earl, Chair of the Clear Creek Task Force. Mary has lived in Kitsap County since 1977, has been a longtime volunteer with the Central Kitsap Community Council, I think since 2002, and has been involved maybe since the inception of the Clear Creek Task Force. So Mary, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about the mission of the task force?
Well, thank you very much for having me today. The mission, the task force was formed in 1991 to preserve the creek from the development and impervious services that was happening in Silverdale during that time. A group of citizens led by Paul Britton, Sam Holcomb, and Tex Lewis worked on the plan, which included a mission to create a community-wide network to mobilize support, educate, and focus action to preserve, protect, and restore the Clear Creek ecosystem. So two of the most important programs that we have are Salmon in the Classroom and our annual Earth Day project. Those projects involve thousands of school children throughout the Central Kitsap area, raising salmon and releasing them in the stream, and the high school kids build trail and help maintain the trail. These have been going on for over 20 years.
So as stewards of this important ecosystem, what does the task force think about this project that we're talking about today?
We're very excited about it. In fact, we're turning cartwheels over this. We think it's such a grand idea. Right now there are 72-inch culverts that allow the fish and the exchange of saltwater and freshwater from the estuary into the nearshore habitat. And by replacing it with a 230-foot span, that allows more of an exchange of saltwater and freshwater, and it's a better environment for salmon.
I recently learned the word SACOD, and we are in fact here today in the SACOD Interpretive Center. What does that word mean, Mary, and what's the significance of that?
The Suquamish Indians called the bay SACOD, and that is a Suquamish word for the bay, the creek, and the camping area that they used. That the word actually means to spear it, as in harvesting fish for dinner.
You mentioned some important projects coming up this spring, and I'm wondering for our viewers where they can find additional information if they would like to volunteer for some of those activities.
Thank you. Yes, our Earth Day project on April 24th is with the Central Kitsap High School students, and we'll be working at the Markwick Park, sprucing that up in preparation for the community garden that will be opening this spring. And if people wanted to help out with that, the best place to go would be to our website, clearcreektrail.org.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Mary, for being here today, for opening up the Interpretive Center for us to have this conversation. Thank you for your tireless work on the trail and your volunteerism. You're an inspiration to all of us.
Well, thank you, and it was my pleasure. Thank you.
So joining me now is Tina Nelson, our Senior Project Manager for the Bucklin Hill Bridge Project. Tina is a civil engineer and a Senior Program Manager for Kitsap County Public Works. She has worked in the public works arena for more than 25 years and has been with Kitsap County 6 years now, I believe. One of the things that I learned about Tina when we first met, and I think it's something that we share, is a desire to reach out to the public and ensure they understand the projects that we're doing, that they have good information and understand the why behind big projects like this one. So thank you, Tina, for joining me today to help explain this project to the public and perhaps answer some of their questions. Why don't we start by talking about the goals and benefits of the project?
Thank you so much, Commissioner Streissguth. It's an honor to be here, and it's always exciting to get an opportunity to talk about a project like this. This is a very large project for the Public Works Department's road group, and it has a lot of impact on people, and of course there's a lot of big dollars involved in this project. The two main elements of the project is environmental, and then also for traffic. And the environmental improvements are very significant. Currently we have, as Merle Earl said earlier too, we have two 72-inch culverts, and they're impeding fish passage up into the Clear Creek area. Now with the removal of those and replacing those with a 24-foot span bridge, we're going to open up the estuary, and the fish will be much happier, and thereby you're going to slowly return the estuary to what it once was. You know, sediments will move freely, and eventually it will look like maybe it did about 100 years ago. So that is a significant improvement for the environment. With that also comes a significant improvement for the traveling public in Silverdale. If you travel in Silverdale, you know that it is congested on Bucklin Hill as well as on Ridgetop. And right before you get to Blaine Avenue, you get to a choke point right at that estuary. And so the improvements will start on Bucklin Hill at about Blaine Avenue and go up to the Mickleberry intersection. We will remove the fill and the culverts and build a bridge, like I mentioned earlier. We'll have 4 lanes of traffic. We'll have bike lanes. We'll have wider sidewalks. We'll also upgrade some of the utilities. We'll provide water quality, so the runoff water, the rainwater that falls on the road will basically go through water treatment. And we will also have an improvement at the intersection with Levin Road. So if you're on Bucklin Hill Road heading towards Mickleberry, you will be able to make a left turn into Levin Road. And we hope that is going to help businesses and doctor's offices, et cetera, for customers to access.
Better traffic circulation.
Absolutely.
Great.
And another very key important item, the connectivity with the trail, both sides of the estuary, and of course the main trail that crosses, the Clear Creek Trail that crosses right on the east side of the estuary. That's going to be an upgrade with a new signal so that we keep that connectivity.
So Tina, tell me a little bit about some of the public concerns you've heard. I know you've been doing outreach, you've had a number of open houses. What are some of the concerns that you've heard from the public about the project?
Yeah, I mean, a project of this size and cost is difficult for people to kind of fathom in the economy where, you know, some people are struggling and the county has had to cut positions and cut down on budget, etc. And then you're spending $16 million on a road project. That has been one element. The other has been why does it take so long? And also why is the county going to close the road? Another concern the citizens has was that we were doing something elaborate when we started talking about building overlooks at the trail crossing. And we have to, on the east side of the estuary, we're building large retaining walls. We're talking 12 feet tall retaining walls because we have to raise the grade of the roadway to accommodate the 100-year flood and to accommodate utilities. The roadway has to come up. So we thought, the design team, that we could make something a little bit nicer since we're building the retaining walls anyway. So we're spending about $60,000 on adding some street furniture and kind of a little gathering place. And then working with the Clear Creek Task Force and Visit Kitsap, we've also started to develop an informational kiosk that will be located right there.
So Tina, you mentioned the road closure, and I'm wondering, what were some of the factors that entered into the decision to close the road, and how much of the road is going to be closed?
So let me take the second part of your question first. So the road will be closed from between Levin and Mickleberry. So the Mickleberry intersection will not be closed, but you will not be able to go westbound on Bucklin Hill Road at all. And then at Blaine, you will not be able to continue. And that is a roadway, of course, there is no business that have access directly off of that roadway. Closing a road is always a very difficult decision. There's a lot of aspects that go into that decision, and we pros and cons, we studied it in many ways. I think the key factor is that whether you close the road or not, if you keep the road open, it's not going to be free-flowing traffic. You have a large construction project. We have a 15-foot deep sewer. We have 80-foot girders that got to be placed. We have lots of other utilities that need to happen. And big equipment, large excavators, trucks, and everything else. So it will be a very congested area for people to drive through. So as we're modeling this traffic-wise, we're seeing almost as much congestion with the roadway open as the roadway closed. So now we're looking at what other benefits, what can we do better, faster, etc. if we close the road? Well, we can save 6 months. So having traffic impacts for a year or a year and a half, that seemed very significant to us. The other thing is we're going to save ourselves some money, about $1.5 million. The $60 million project, that's still 10%. And that's money that can go into other road improvements. We can make a good safety improvement to a different intersection somewhere. We talked a lot with the public, talked a lot with the Central Kitsap Community Council, especially about the road closure, and made that decision last year. It affects design because how you build the project, what you can do with the project, it's important too. The part of the design matters whether you're going to close the road or not. It's safer for the people that work on the project, and it's definitely safer for the driving public. You know, if you're one of those that drive by and see a big excavator, you may turn your head and you can hit somebody out there too. So, but we're asking for patience during construction because closing that roadway is going to have impacts on other areas, that's for sure.
Well, it was a very big decision, and I think one thing that the public needs to know is that there will be impacts of that closure. There will be things that people will need to stop and consider. And I know one of the things you and I have talked about is the importance of a communication plan with the public so that they have project updates and can stay abreast of how the project is progressing. Can you talk a little about some of the communication that is planned during the road closure?
Absolutely. And I think I would also like to say more so the communication that we're planning prior to the road closure. I think once the road is closed, it's a fact. And then I think it's important just to let people know if we're progressing per schedule or if we have something unusual come up, or maybe what we are doing to try to mitigate some issues that may happen in other places in Silverdale due to the road closure. We will be watching other intersections and watching the traffic very closely. We have cameras at our intersections, so at our road shop, at our signal shop, we can actually monitor intersections and make adjustments to traffic signals. We're going to make sure that we have some agreement with the sheriff's office so we can get uniformed officers at intersections when needed. We're looking at a possibility of having a temporary signal at Ridgetop 11, for example. On the project website, bucklandhill.com, we will be providing information about what's happening with the project. But the key thing right now is we're not trying to make everybody fall in love with this project, but we want as many people as possible to know the road is closed, and we need you to help us and everybody in Silverdale by finding different ways of coming around. So we have, for this specific occasion, we wrote the Tina's Trip Tips. And in no specific order or anything, but there are just some ideas for people to think about. It's travel smart. If you can travel at a different time, if you travel not during peak hours. And when you go to your favorite business in Silverdale, maybe you can choose a slightly different time. Maybe you don't need to go in mid-morning or late afternoon when everybody is traveling. Maybe you can plan your trip, carpool with somebody else, make one trip out of 2 trips. Maybe you can use transit. We're also working with Kitsap Transit, so during events like the Kitsap County Fair or Whaling Days, to see if maybe there is some way to provide some additional transit so that we don't get as much traffic into Silverdale. We're also reaching out to businesses. We're going to talk directly with businesses. We have large mailings to businesses. And the big thing that goes out here in May is the Waste-Wise newsletter. It's a newsletter from our Solid Waste and Stormwater Division that goes out to every household in Kitsap County. This year it would also include information about the closure of the Bucklin Hill roadway, so that awareness gets out to people in as many ways as we can think of.
Tina, I'm wondering if you can describe the detour routes and the alternate routes that you referenced a minute ago. I think that's a great practical suggestion for people to think about taking a different route. Maybe you can just outline what some of those might be.
Yes. Of course, there will be an official detour route, official in the sense that that route will be the signed route. If you travel Bucklin Hill or Ridgetop today, you know that during peak hours, during rush hours, both of those roadways are fairly congested. Now we close one of those and try to put all the traffic on Bucklin Hill Road onto Ridgetop. We know that's not going to work. So what we're really asking people to do is find your route, find a different route, think different about where you are going. So if you're looking at this map, you can see that there are some yellow roads and there are some green roads. And of course there is the red road, which is the detour route. But we're really asking people, try to utilize maybe the highway, use Greaves Way. If you're coming from the south and going to the hospital or to any of the businesses up in the corner, Lowe's, Costco, etc., utilize the Ridgetop exit and don't go through Silverdale if your destination is at the other end of Silverdale. But again, still go visit that business, your favorite business. They still need to see you during the closure of the roadway.
So how would citizens get up-to-date information on the project as it moves forward and during construction? Information about the project, historical, and what's going on now, and time frames, and any information that we have available is on the project webpage, and it's bucklandhill.com. And on that particular page, you can also sign up for automatic information through GovDelivery. So you will automatically receive an email if there is an update. You can also sign up for the Kitsap County's road report. Then you will automatically get messages about any road improvements, construction activities in the entire county. Tina, how long will these improvements take, and what can citizens expect during construction?
Citizens can actually expect to see something starting even in April. With a project like this, there are lots of work that needs to take place ahead of time. The private utilities, Cascade Natural Gas, for example, they will be adjusting some of their services prior to us starting. They will start in April. We will also see some work on some of the power poles before work starts. The big construction contract, though, it starts this summer. And then the road will be closed, and the road will be closed for about a year. And after we open up the road, there may still be some work left to do. The contractor will start the summer by bringing in equipment, and then they will start immediately to work on isolating areas in the estuary and start working on the bridge. and then utilities, etc. But it could, the majority of the improvements will take a year to complete.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tina, for being here with me today, for providing this important information, explaining some of the project details to the public. I want to remind the viewers that are watching to check the bucklinhill.com website for more information. And if you'll stay with us, we'll be right back with some closing comments. I want to thank Mary Earle, Clear Creek Task Force, and Tina Nelson, Kitsap County Public Works, for joining me today. I'm Linda Streissguth, Kitsap County Commissioner, District 3. Thank you for joining us today.